Cheers. It's good to be live on Truth Bombs. Happy Friday. Elena joins me once again. The
Hello,
Russian.
the Russian. I feel I am very appropriate guest
You
now.
are. I know Jenny's been busy and it's been perfect timing to have you on to interpret so-called propaganda and disinformation. I think we're getting it from both sides. I think Russia puts out propaganda and so does the US. What government doesn't? It's pretty sad.
Well, as one of the very famous Nazis, by the way, once said, it doesn't matter what kind of regime is it. It could be democracy, could be authoritarian, could be Nazi regime. Just tell people that they are attacked. Just tell them that they are attacked by some external enemy, and that's how you drag them into hating, other group or other state or other whatever. So it's easy. Just keep telling them that they are attacked. So we can see a lot of that going on. And let me get it out of the way. Ukraine is attacked. There is no doubt of that. There is a fucking war going on there. Regardless of what Russia say and what Russia say, and they say that this is just, a military special operation, a cleanup.
That's what they're telling their citizens.
Yes, exactly. That's what they're telling this.
So for the viewers who don't know, Yelena lives in the USA. You've lived in America for how many years?
I lived here for 8 years.
And before that, you were a Russian.
Well, as crazy as it sounds, I am Russian, Ukrainian, and Jewish. If
Oh,
you, yeah.
I didn't know you had Ukrainian blood.
Yes,
I think I heard the Jew part.
yeah, well, if you look at my 23 and me genetic report, and it's pretty obvious as my grandparents have very Ukrainian surname. And, I think for us Russians, it's pretty common situation that we have a roots or family. So, I'm Russian, I'm Ukrainian, and I'm Jewish, and it's quite a mix.
I,
Very
I have even more of a mix. So I'm English, Dutch, German, and Swedish. There we go. I'm just an American though. So we're gonna dive into the latest update. So Russia and the U.S. went head to head at a UN Security Council meeting today in the debate over this whole biological weapons situation, whether or not Ukraine was creating biological weapons on the border with Russia. So before we dive into this, and I want to get your take, and you're also going to give us some more perspective on how the Russians really see Americans based on what they're being fed. Before we dive into it, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage, which is Health with Ivory. Check this out. Studies show our appearance directly affects our mental health. Many anti aging supplements found on store shelves try to capitalize on that. Most of them fall short. This is because they fail to target the root of the problem. These products typically try to hide wrinkles, but this is only temporary. The alternative is a solution that goes underneath the surface of the skin to promote the skin's elasticity and its overall appearance. It goes by the name of Health with Ivory. This collagen quickly restores youthfulness to your skin. It helps combat wrinkles and does so better than anything ever tried. So get this: the reason it's so good at reducing the appearance of wrinkles is that it supercharges collagen intake. Collagen is the main ingredient there. This is the secret behind why it works so well. It gets to the source of the problem that causes the wrinkles. Collagen is the number one protein in our skin and is what's needed to promote elasticity and youthful looking appearance. Imagine how good your skin could look this summer with using it. If you've been looking for a great way to look and feel your best, you'll love Health with Ivory. Get up to 51% off for the next 24 hours by going to healthwithivory.com or visiting that link down in my description. go grab a bag right now. Collagen is pure protein, and it actually comes, it comes from cartilage, and you are what you eat. So I'm a huge fan of it. How do you take your collagen, Elena?
Well, I usually take it with my vodka before I go play with my bear.
Such a Russian, such a Russian.
But no, actually, to be honest, I take collagen every morning. I have 2 to 4 servings of, some good marine, preferably marine, but I can do any collagen. So yes, it is in my health and wellness routine to have some collagen.
So get that collagen link down below, guys. Okay, so let's jump into the headlines today. The UN Security Council West dismisses Russian claims of biological weapons in Ukraine. So I want to read you guys a headline here and then actually play sound bites. It was really interesting listening to the American representative giving a rebuttal to the Russian. But here's Al Jazeera. Let's get perspective from a Middle Eastern news outlet that's neither Russia nor US. So they said that Russia has renewed accusations of a US-backed biological weapons program in Ukraine, allegations that were dismissed as disinformation by most members of the UN Security Council. Representatives of the United States and United Kingdom, amongst others, rebuked Russia for requesting a Security Council meeting on Friday for the purpose of discussing its claims. Last week, the Security Council also held a session at Russia's request to hear similar allegations. U.S. Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield likened the Russian account of biological weapons in Ukraine to internet-spurred conspiracy theories. And I'm about to play her soundbite. So the soundbite I'm going to play is first we're going to hear from the Russia's envoy, which is, I don't know how to say this. How do you say this, Elena? Vasily Nebenzia? I don't know these Russian names.
Vasily Nebenzia, Vasily Nebenzia, something like
Okay,
that.
so you'll hear from him, and then you'll hear her rebuttal, and then you're gonna hear his rebuttal again. Here it is.
За прошедшую неделю вскрылись новые подробности, которые позволяют говорить о том, что на территории Украины создавались компоненты биологического оружия. Реализация упомянутого американо-украинского соглашения 2005 года, комментарии насчет которого мы ждем от представителей США, все эти годы шла полным ходом. Причем из документа следует, что помогали американским коллеги не, как они утверждают, украинскому Минздраву, а украинскому Минобороны. Распространенный нами сегодня утром в качестве документа Совета Безопасности подборки материалов вы можете видеть так называемый план технической помощи определенным реципиентам Минобороны Украины. Я рекомендую внимательно изучить этот документ. В нем подтверждается непосредственное финансирование кураторства Пентагона и его управлением по снижению военной угрозы военно-биологических проектов на Украине. Общеобъемный карт-бланш на территории Украины позволили самостоятельно проводить там опасные биоэксперименты. Американский подряд опасных исследований, которые Вашингтон не хочет проводить на своей территории, чтобы не подвергать рискам собственного населения. Не удивимся, если вскроются аналогичные факты о деятельности курируемых США лабораторий в других регионах мира. Призываем страны, предоставившие свою территорию для проведения таких экспериментов Пентагону, внимательно изучить контрактную документацию и сотрудничество США в биологической сфере. В Харькове реализовывался также проект P-781 по изучению путей передачи человеку заболеваний через летучих мышей. Работа на нем мышей в украинских биолабораториях носили системный характер и проводились как минимум с 2009 года под непосредственным контролем специалистов США. В ходе реализации указанных проектов были выделены 6 семейств вирусов, включая коронавирус и 3 вида патогенных бактерий, возбудители чумы, бруцеллеза и лептоспироз.
And last week we heard from the Russian representative a tirade of bizarre conspiracy theories. This week we're hearing a whole lot more where that came from, things that sound like they were forwarded to him on a chain email from some dark corner of the internet. President Biden has a word for this kind of talk: malarkey. As I said 1 week ago, Ukraine does not have a biological weapons program. There are no Ukrainian biological weapons laboratories, not near Russia's border, not anywhere. There are only public health facilities, proudly, and I say proudly, supported and recognized by the U.S. government, the World Health Organization, and other governments and international institutions. In fact, it is Russia that has long maintained a biological weapons program in violation of international law.
Если вы ничего не услышали нового в нашем
haven't heard
выступлении
anything new in
сегодня,
our statement today,
значит, вы нас не
it's
слышали
because
или
you
не
weren't
слышали.
listening to us.
Мы
We
представили не домыслы
provided not
на
fiction,
основании теории заговоров, подчеркнутые в
we've
темной сети интернета,
not something found in the dark web,
а мы представили
but we
новые
provided
материалы
new material
и документы
and documents.
в российской
Don't
пропаганде.
make unfounded
А
accusations of
ответами на
Russian
поставленные вопросы,
propaganda, but
которые
reply to the
мы
questions that
задали.
we asked.
Вы же отказываетесь это
You're
делать,
refusing to do so,
просто потому что вам сказать
simply
нечего.
because you've got nothing to say.
Вместо этого вы пытаетесь
Rather than this, you're
обвинить
trying
нас
to
в
accuse
намерении
us, an
применить на
intention
Украине
to
биологическое и химическое оружие.
deploy biological and chemical weapons
Это
against
верх
Ukraine.
цинизма.
I mean, he does have a point there. Like, he's saying that she just brushed that off, and the U.S. representative, she wouldn't even take in the points that he was making, the specific he was unveiling. The American said, "Oh, that sounds like a goofy chain email of a conspiracy theory." And so he's like, "You're brushing it off because you have no response for it." But who knows what to believe? What's your take?
Well, let me say what Russians believe. In fact, my Russians, meaning my friends and my family, even who do not support President Putin and this war, actually do believe that that might be somehow true, just because they don't believe there is anything good, can come from the West, NATO, and United States of America.
Mm.
So the degree of distrust towards America, not American people, but the government, is pretty high now in Russia. So even, let's say, most anti-Putin, anti-war people who are my friends, they believe that maybe there was something. Me personally, my personal take on that, I probably wouldn't believe that, just because the grandpa Biden was actually, screaming like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ahead of this operation. He was like all over this. The invasion is gonna happen, the invasion is gonna happen, and everyone laughed at him, right? And like, oh my God, he's, totally cuckoo. And then it happened. So tell me, wouldn't United States of America, knowing about this invasion, wouldn't like they clean it up or something? Wouldn't they clean it up if they had the information about this invasion about 3 to 4 or something like that months ahead? So this is just the logic that I have about that. What do you think?
Well, I was actually digging into the actual program that they have over there. The U.S. hasn't kept their program a secret on the biological, labs that they look at. So I have here that the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, they call it the Biohazard Reduction Program. This is actually, I guess, written in Ukrainian. I hit the Google Translate button to decipher what it's saying in English. And Now, the point that the Russian representative was making at UN Security Council today was that it was not Ukraine's Department of Health dealing with this. It was Ukraine's Department of Defense dealing with whatever little petri dishes they were looking at in there. And that's something that he, as a Russian, has a problem with. It sounds like a lot of your Russian people are concerned about it as well.
They are actually what they heard, or the rumors that are going on in Russia, that this special kind of biological weapon is something that is targeted towards the people of Slavic origin.
Wow. Well, they lay it out here. Now, this is, the Russian representative has a point here in that the first thing it says here, the U.S. Department of Defense Biological Threat Reduction Program, it's run by the U.S. Department of Defense, not the Health Department. And who are they helping? It says right here, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense. Well, yes, their Ministry of Health is also listed here, but it's one nation's defense department working with another nation's defense department on petri dishes of viruses and bacteria and other deadly diseases. So, he has a point. These are military operations.
So Russians, most of the Russians do believe that. And, I can tell you that in Russian language, it's a very different language from, English, different language group, different semantics. We actually do have two words for the word truth, right? In America, this is truth. This is just truth, this is it. No, not in Russia. In Russia, we have two. One is called pravda. And pravda, it's something like, it's truth, but it's yours, like your truth, This is from your standpoint, from what you see. It's your, like, subjective, may I say, truth, your personal truth. And then we have istina. And istina, it's like the highest truth. This is from God, This is something that is totally undeniable and omnipotent, and this is just is. So in Russian, we have those two words, truth and istina. So we would never know what the istina, or omnipresent, patent, and like 100% truth. But I can see some pravda in that, or some.
Yeah. Well, there's
maybe there is something. Maybe
American pravda and there's Russian pravda, and
who knows where is istina? We don't, but
well, let's see if we can find a hint of the istina in this American government propaganda video that was put out 2 weeks after the pandemic started. So January 14th, 2020, the U.S., the particular division that is working in Ukraine on these biolabs, put out a propaganda YouTube video to try to calm any fears. It's very interesting timing that 2 weeks after the pandemic started, the U.S. did this big PR video about their biolabs in Ukraine. Why would they do that? But let's look at the video and see if we can get any real truth from this video.
In the biological threat reduction program is complicated, and it's difficult to communicate it sometimes to outside audiences. And I think our adversaries like Russia can take advantage of that with some of the propaganda that they put out.
The biological threat reduction program is working in 27 countries. We feel this disinformation and misinformation is done just to really exploit divisions.
We've had accusations that some research projects were being used to create threats, not to identify threats and reduce them. Ulterior motives are being injected where none exist.
We've built these capabilities for the partners, their central reference labs for research. They publish everything they do. They invite the international community into their laboratories. They're working on behalf and the benefit of the people of their respective countries.
Kazakhstan, like many of the other republics in the former Soviet Union, had biological weapons. Russian media has attacked the Central Reference Laboratory that was built by the Biological Threat Reduction Program. The laboratory is there to both store dangerous biological pathogens from the Soviet era.
What?
And to conduct from the Soviet era. Dangerous biological, both store dangerous biological pathogens.
He said it right there. They're storing dangerous biological pathogens
from
apparently created in the Soviet Union. And Ukraine is just holding on to those. Get rid of those. Destroy those. Why would you want to hold on to them?
Well, the timing is, very interesting. And actually, if you look at some other moves or indications, this hasn't started on February 24th of 2022. This all has started, long time ago.
Well, this bio threat reduction program in the U.S., I guess, has been going on for 30 years, the U.S. says. But, okay, so this guy right here gave it away that they have Ukraine is carrying bioweapons. They try to do a nice positive PR piece in 2020 at the advent of the pandemic, and they just gave it away.
In Russia, they basically say the total opposite. They say that Ukraine is basically trying to get some nuclear weapon, and biological weapon, and they were going to attack Russia. That's the narrative that our people in Russia.
So I'm sure for Russians, for Americans, for any average citizen who does not want a deadly illness unleashed on them, Ukraine, why are you hanging on to deadly pathogens created or harnessed originally by Soviets as bioweapons, and you're hanging on to them in this lab that's funded by the U.S. on the edge of...
We don't know, we don't know what they are holding and where they are holding it.
Well, this guy's giving it away in his little video.
I'm quite sure there are some uncounted nukes, stored around here and there, but
hey, we got to trust the U.S. on this, and the Biden administration when they say that they're only holding these bioweapons as research to prevent the use of bioweapons. We're supposed to trust that.
Well,
let's hear that again.
Dangerous biological pathogens from the Soviet era, and
so again,
built by the Biological Threat Reduction Program.
This is the controversial building right here.
The Central Reference Laboratory that was built by the Biological Threat Reduction Program. The laboratory is there to both store dangerous biological pathogens from the Soviet era and to conduct research by Kazakhstani scientists in order to prevent the spread of new biological pathogens.
Okay, I guess that's a facility in Kazakhstan.
Help safeguard Europe from
Kazakhstan, and I can see. Wow, I guess it's all over. That part was about Kazakhstan, but I can see the subtitles are in Ukrainian. So basically, they are promoting it, and former so-called CIZ, former Soviet Union bloc countries, saying like, yeah, there are some pathogens and some fun stuff, but we are just researching it and making sure.
Yeah, the video is in regards to biolabs in Ukraine, putting a positive spin on them, but it looped in the Kazakhstan facility right there. And the U.S. Defense Threat Reduction Agency is talking about, we have these research labs all over. So it's really interesting that the U.S. is like outsourcing this very dangerous research I'm curious how many of those research labs we have in America, or if we want other countries to, experiment with those dangers.
We would never know, but we do know that US is very skilled and prominent on sponsoring and supporting certain initiatives that they want in other countries and making sure some other things die out. I don't know if if you are studying that at home, and here we actually come to how this all started, not even talking about biolabs, but this, whole situation started and why it is as shitty as it is. And it all started when, I probably talked about it already, when, Soviet Union fell, and Russia since then has been treated as a, former has been with a puny GDP, and no one, took Russia seriously, and Putin is very aggravated. So after the Soviet Union fell, what we Russians got, we got so-called Wolfowitz doctrine. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that. I'm quite sure some viewers are, but basically the document is available online. It's a very imperialistic document which is saying America is to be the greatest power, and we are never gonna let other country to raise their head and be equal to us, and we are gonna kill every country that will try to do that, and blah 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 blah. So that Wolfowitz doctrine somehow ended up in Bush official doctrine dealing with Russia, and that's how America was dealing, with Russia ever since. And I'm quite sure Putin was, quite pissed off. And from what I know, he actually really tried to be friends. You know that Russian application to join NATO was suspended in 2013 after they invaded Crimea. So Russia tried to join NATO. They tried, to join European Union. So they wanted to be friends, but I guess this is not profitable or not, I don't know what, to the NATO and United States. So we Russians, we have this opinion that this is, United States who created Putin as he is right now, and now Ukrainians are the one who are paying for it. So that's prevailing opinion in Russia.
So I saw Putin did a big Trump style rally today.
Oh yeah.
Fox News had this headline: Putin's propaganda show, Russia holds pro-war rally as Ukrainian invasion stalls. And by the way, latest reports are that 6.5 million people have been displaced from Ukraine due to this invasion. Another 9,000 had to evacuate today. So what's your sense of this rally? I mean, is there a lot of Russian patriotism going on? Or, I mean, are these Russians proud of this war, or what's going on?
Well, according to official data, Putin has over 70% support in Russia. Speaking of my own friends and relatives, I can believe it's somehow more or less accurate, because my own family and friends, they're 50-50. Some are extremely patriotic, we voted for Putin, we love Putin, Putin is the president of the universe, and, no, of course they don't want war, they don't want people to die, but what they believe, or what they are conditioned to believe, that this was a necessity, because if we, the Russia, haven't done that, Russia would be attacked by a NATO. So that's, the opinion. Some of the people, they do not really support Putin, but they also don't want NATO by our borders. All the Russians, we don't want NATO by our borders. Even me, I don't live in Russia. I am in opposition, to Putin. I don't like his regime, but I don't want NATO by our borders.
NATO is seen as a big threat to you guys.
NATO is a big threat. I mean, against who are they expanding? Tell me.
Against you guys.
As easy as that. So yes, Putin does have a support. So all the hopes of United States administration that they are going to sanction Russia and cause the unrest among the citizens, who are going to rebel and arrange some nice coup. This is not going to happen in Russia. This is not going to happen. Don't even, hope for that. I would say those official data, and I would say unfortunately, because I don't like corruption, I don't like bureaucracy, I don't like oligarchs stealing everything, from everywhere. So maybe it would be nice for Russia to have a coup, but it's not gonna happen.
Well, nobody's been invading, despite Putin's fears, nobody's been invading his country and killing his people. He's the one doing that right now to others, and that's the issue.
Well, that is the issue, but I think it's a little bit of a double standards because, Ivory, as you just mentioned, while this is all happening in Ukraine, what is United States doing? Bombing Somalia. And, in Russia, it's a very popular meme. It was actually originally posted by Chinese officials, and they call it the World Democracy Tour or US bombing list.
Okay, you sent me this today, and I hadn't seen it before. I'm going to bring it up, and what do you know? I found a Chinese guy posted it. So here's the list. You said that this is something that's gone viral in Russia.
Yes, the Chinese official posted it on Twitter, and it just gone viral in Russia. And I actually stolen it from the Instagram story of one of my Russian friends. And where the UN, where everyone was,
Yeah, and he writes here, none of these countries have ever attacked, invaded, or occupied the USA. So so foreign countries see America sometimes as an evil aggressor who's bombing nations needlessly.
Well, exactly. That's why we the Russians, we don't want NATO by our borders.
So and in America, we are told that our government dropped that bomb because there were rebels in that country that were hurting innocent people. So we dropped a bomb on the rebels to protect the innocent people.
And their threat to democracy, and they are developing a nuclear weapon. Well, Putin had a good teachers, don't you say? He's doing exactly what Americans did, with so many countries.
Oh my gosh, he is. That's insane. Because when he made his announcement originally, that little announcement video Putin put out, he said he was basically invading to protect people who'd been aggressed upon from the Ukrainian government, right?
Now, yeah, this is also a big deal, in Russia. In Russia, everyone, even people who don't like and don't support Putin, everyone believed that there was a war, almost, full-scale war in Ukraine since 2014. And there were pro-Kiev forces which are represented, described as Nazis. I'm not sure how accurate it is. I can only tell you what they say. Russian people happen to believe in that, and apparently
that there are Nazis in
that they are Nazis. Russophobic. They're like they hate Russians. They are Nazis, and there was fighting since 2014 in Donetsk and Lugansk, which are eastern Ukraine. And I must say, from what I know about Ukraine, I might not know, much because I didn't live there. But Ukraine, there is eastern Ukraine, where are a lot of Russian-speaking people who are culturally, very close to our Russians. Then there are people from the central Ukraine and western Ukraine, and those people, they're different people. There is not much common, between Russians and them. And people who were in eastern Ukraine, Donetsk and Lugansk, they wanted to separate and get this republic status. And the fighting was going on there since 2014. So I probably sent you some links what Russian media, is showing. And one of the symbols of this war, there was this woman who got killed by a shelling from a forces which were told to be Ukrainian. She died holding her baby, and they're laying like in the middle of this park, torn apart, and it's just like a, I don't know, pound of blood. I mean, it's horrific. And then there was Odessa, when pro-Russian activists who were doing, they say they were doing peaceful protest. I don't know how accurate is that. Were attacked by pro-Kiev forces who are considered to be Nazis by Russian, and there was a fight. And then some people, I believe it was 39 or 40 of them, they were burned alive. They ran and locked themselves in some like house or something, and pro-Nazi forces apparently set that house on fire. And when burning bodies were falling from the windows, those pro-Nazi forces were like killing them. I mean, it's horrific.
Wow. So Nazis in Ukraine have indeed been like unleashed
Listen,
terror
this is
on innocent Ukrainians.
This is a Russian narrative. People.
But you've seen the images you described.
Yes, I did. I actually sent you some links. I don't know if that's the truth. If I listen to my Russian friends, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's how it was."
Did you email me the links? I didn't get them.
Yeah, I did email you the links, but in any case, then there was this children's beach. There was this little village with the beach, and the children, with their parents, were apparently hanging out on the weekend, beach time. And then the pro-Ukrainian forces started to shell them and, killed all the children. And so it is horrific. I sent you those links. You can.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I didn't see your email. I'm going to bring this up right now. So you're saying this is Ukrainian Nazi terror.
That's what Russian media and my Russian friends say. The Ukrainian people are saying it's all not true.
So this is a 2014 article, UK Daily Mail. Quote, running for their lives, children flee beach near Donetsk during mortar attack as fighting steps up across Ukraine following MH17 disaster. Missile was fired at lake while families were swimming and sunbathing. Wow. And there's the images. Oh my gosh. You can see the impact in the background and the little kid running. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, there were, many of them killed. I, cannot say how true it is. Of course, Ukrainians say it's not true. We don't have Nazis. Russians say there are Nazis. And, Nazis are very sensitive topic to Russians. In fact, you can get any Russian going like that, just saying Nazis because of World War II. I know it's not very known in America, but we fought on our land, Nazis attacked us, and we lost 29 million people in that war. So when you say Nazis, for Russians, it's like, oh my God, it's like a red flag for a bull,
Wow. Well, I know, back in the era of Hitler, Nazis did have a huge stronghold in Ukraine. I was, oddly enough, just researching that history in February before Russia invaded Ukraine because I got in contact with a Holocaust survivor who now lives in Israel. This old lady who lived, she's Ukrainian. She now lives in Israel, but she was a Ukrainian Jew. And during Hitler's reign of terror, Ukraine teamed up with him and Nazified and created its own concentration camps in Ukraine. And she was one of the kids who got thrown in those concentration camps. So, but it's crazy to think that there would be Nazi terror today.
When we say Ukraine, no, that wasn't all Ukraine. There was a certain group of people, we call them Bandera. That's who they were. Not all the Ukrainians teamed up with Hitler.
Well, yeah, of course, not all of them. Yeah, I mean, this woman was a Ukrainian herself, and she was getting thrown in a concentration camp by fellow Ukrainians because she happened to be a Ukrainian Jew. But, and it's just like when you hear about Nazis in Ukraine today, I'm like, it's so hard to figure out what to believe now because we hear about neo-Nazis in the U.S. too. And a lot of these people in the U.S. who get accused of being neo-Nazis are not neo-Nazis. I'm sure there is like a small fringe group, but just seeing the propaganda here, it's like, I don't know what to believe overseas.
Well, what I showed you about Donetsk, this is and Lugansk, and those mass killings of Russians that were going there since 2014. This is how Putin justified the invasion in Ukraine, and this is why a lot of Russians support him in that. Not me personally. I think all he needed to do is to freaking close a gas pipe, because Russia supplies 40% of European gas and also a lot of other commodities. So all he needed, my point of view, is to close the gas pipe and everyone would be dancing around him, asking like, so what is his end game? No one knows. At this time, we cannot, decipher it. There is no legend that we can use to decipher his move. Maybe he's just trying to create some anarchy, and there are some other interesting theories.
So I was watching Neil Cavuto's show on Fox while I was preparing for my show, and I usually keep the news on mute, but I like to see what they're spinning over there. But anyway, he has this guest on.
Mm-hmm.
She says, quote, "I'm not going to talk about assassination, but that's the only way it ends." So another person just called to assassinate Putin.
Which is seriously, are you fucking out of your mind? There is a chance that he's actually a madman who is holding his finger on a red button.
Well, in many ways, it seems that way because, like you just said, Putin, if he had an issue with how certain people in Ukraine were being treated, just cut off a gas pipe to Ukraine and say, hey, cooperate with us or you're not getting energy. And instead, he goes and bombs them.
Well, that's something that just doesn't make sense for me. However, if you look at some of the moves he made a couple of years ago, well, maybe it will make sense, and maybe pure Ukraine is, just a distraction, and there is some other bigger end game. And
from the day of February 24th, when that all hell broke loose in the media, my higher self was screaming distraction. Okay. Like, yes, this is a real invasion, but it's an invasion to distract against whatever else is going on.
Well, what else, could be going on is that Russia and its new best friend, bestie, China, finally teamed up and were like, you know what, we are done with this Western hegemony. We are done with the West.
Russia and China are going to create their own NATO, huh? That's what
we kind of have that. It's called BRIC. It's Brazil, India, China. So if I were Putin and I am that pissed off about United States and NATO, what would I do? Actually, what would you do, Ivory, if you were Putin? If you were Vladimir Putin and you got this country, Russia, in 2000, you are somehow elected, somehow legit, but, elected. So you got this country. It's a very rich country, a lot of oil and gas and all that stuff. GDP is tiny. Everything is stolen, and the West is making sure that you're never gonna raise your head and doesn't treat you with the respect, does not respect the agreements that were made. There are two very famous documents. One is a Helsinki Accord, when NATO and Soviet Union agreed that Eastern Europe isn't, out of the reach of NATO. And then it was 1990 when NATO gave ironclad guarantee of non-expansion. But then in 1996, they all of a sudden doubled their size. So, and you're pissed off and you keep talking about it. Like, hey guys, how about this? How about what we agreed upon? And they're like, come on. Leave us alone, just, stay quiet, and you're trying to be friends, you are trying to join NATO, you're trying to join European Union, and everyone's just like, come on, go away. So if you were Putin, what would you do? Like, what would you possibly do?
I would start acting like the leader of a free country if I really wanted to be a part of, if I really wanted these people who love freedom to like me. Start having a completely free press, start harshly prosecuting corruption within your own nation. And by rooting out corruption in your own nation, you're going to allow a free market to flourish and your GDP is going to expand.
Here is something interesting though. Here is something very, very interesting. Actually, a few days ago, Putin signed that law. He enacted that law that now will punish all the governmental officials and anyone, all officials for the corruption. And they have to provide the explanation for all their resources or money in their bank account. And if they don't, it's all going to be confiscated and they're going to be prosecuted. So he just signed that in action a few days ago. As for having a free press, what is freedom? Janis Joplin had that song, "Freedom is just another word." We Russians, we have never had democracy. It's like, come on. Well, maybe once in our history, in like
and that's why the West doesn't take them seriously. That's why the West doesn't want them to be a part of NATO. Free press is the ability to say and write whatever you want without, punishment from the government.
No, it's not about free press. It's not about free press. It's about that in Russia, Russian people never had a democracy. It's not that they had it and then they lost it, but they know what it is. I don't think Russia knows what democracy is. So most of the Russians are, pretty happy with somehow authoritarian regime. And I think for our nation, it would be good to have a authoritarian or semi-authoritarian regime with some grassroots capitalism. Exactly what China is doing. And you know what? Today in the news, I was looking at this updated billionaires list, and where is like the biggest amount of self-made, newly made women billionaires? Can you guess?
Is it China?
Yes.
Oh my Lord.
And they are exactly that system. I think Putin is just shooting for that, semi-authoritarian regime with grassroots capitalism. And I can see...
I would say that Biden's shooting for that too. Very sadly. I think they all are.
He might. Russian outlook on Biden isn't very, positive. In fact, if you look at my email and find that video I sent...
Oh, so I have the video. I did queue up the video.
Friends, you just send it to me. Look.
So this is what Russians like to replay when they see Biden. They think of America as this loving, supportive country of the world? No, that's not what they see. They look at this.
I just want to know what you suggest, because back then, when I was in your position, I was suggesting we bomb Belgrade. I was suggesting that we send American pilots in and blow up all the bridges on the Drina. I was suggesting we take out his oil supplies. I was suggesting very specific action. And isn't it interesting that we
talking about bombing Serbia, and then we look back at that list of U.S. bombings of foreign nations that you sent me that went viral in Russia?
Well, again, this is not an opinion, about American people. It is, I would say, Russia is just very distrustful of United States government. I mean, Russian people. In fact, I tried to get some of Ukrainian friends who had to flee from Russia, from Ukraine to Russia, who lived in Donetsk and Lugansk and Crimea, to maybe, talk with us and get life.
Oh, I love that.
No one would agree, because everyone is afraid when you say that this is an American journalist and you can explain all you want, that this is an independent journalist, and you can really say what you think and nothing is going to happen. They're just scared. They think that words are going to be twisted, taken out of the context, and all that stuff. So no one, I could not.
Wow, that's why we do it live. So I can't twist your words. They are what they are. But yeah, maybe it's hard to comprehend over there. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, I wouldn't trust, if I were them, and especially with the propaganda they're fed about the U.S., to trust an American journalist in telling their story.
Yeah, probably not.
Americans do not even trust American journalists. Okay.
Yeah,
independent.
Yeah, it took me some time, and I have been living, not only in Russia and America. I've been living and working in Europe and Middle East and everywhere. And it seems like it's pretty common problem. People everywhere, they just want to leave. They just want to leave and have a good life and I don't know, have a dinner, a glass of wine, or whatever is that they want. No one wants war, and then we have this governments, that always drag us somewhere for whatever reason.
Right. Yeah. And you had mentioned the latest U.S. bombing. Guys, if you didn't notice this, U.S. carries out first airstrike in Somalia since August. This is a New York Times article that was published February 21st. That is the day that Russia invaded and decided to start bombing Ukraine. But none of the American TV news was talking about how the U.S. just bombed Africa.
See, and this is what makes me so angry. Why such a double standard? Where is the UN screaming about, American bombings?
But again, this article talks about how, America was bombing a specific Al-Shabaab militant group.
And this is what Putin says too.
He said the same thing in Ukraine.
Exactly what he says, okay? That he's only bombing specific, like US biolabs and, stuff. So
that's such a good point.
I am sorry. It all looks like a complete clusterfuck or fucking data. I don't know, call it cascade of fuckery from all the sides. So where is that ultimate truth? Only God knows. I personally, don't know. All we know is there are many people whose houses are destroyed, whose lives are destroyed, who are dead, and it's just fucking very sad. And we wish it to stop. And there were hopes that it will stop on March 8th. There was another rumor in Russian media that it's gonna stop March 8th, but it didn't.
So what's the Russian media saying? What does Putin want that'll make him stop wreaking havoc?
Well, he wants a guarantee that NATO would not expand. That is one of his main goals and requirements. And from what I heard, finally, the Ukrainian President Zelensky started, to talk about that. Well, maybe Ukraine is gonna be neutral, that stuff. So maybe we do have some hope. But that's one of his main goal. If I were Putin, what I would do? I would do exactly what he did in 2018. He dropped all the U.S. bonds, U.S. government bonds. He dropped it all. He bought shit ton of gold. He started this, propaganda about Nazis and Ukraine, and I'm quite sure that isn't completely without the reason, but he emphasized it and brought it all up, and prepared all the Russian citizens that there is probably going to be conflict. So he created anarchy. He created this, crazy anarchy, and US hit Putin and his oligarchs with sanctions. But see what is happening now, right? So this is the second time in history when the West went for people's personal wealth, And if you remember, the whole US system is based on this, little scheme when the developing world elites would steal at home and then they will park their wealth in US government bonds, US stock markets and property or whatever, because the English law basically prohibits going for private properties this way. And the only exclusion was Gaddafi before. And now they sanctioned Putin and all the oligarchs. So if you look who abstained from condemning Russia in UN, that was Chinese, Arabs, Indian, all those people who have a lot of money parked in US government bonds. And I would say they would probably starting to, pull out too, while Putin and China and Saudis are talking about trading in yuan, Chinese currency. So here goes the hegemony of the dollar as a world reserve trade currency, and here is yuan. And I can see the sign of digitalization in Russia. Russia is developing its digital currency. There is a QR codes now on all the receipts, and it's all aimed at more transparency, control, fight corruption, whatever reasons might be. So then, if I were Putin, I would somehow push through the Sulvatsky gap. This is a very narrow piece of water, it's borderline with. So Russia have this area. It's called Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is like Alaska in US. So US is US, then there is a Canada, and there is Alaska. So Russia has something like that. There is, Russia, there is Europe, and then there is a Kaliningrad.
Oh, okay.
There is the Sulvatsky gap. And fiber optic cable that apparently connects a lot of satellites and a lot of, I do believe it's a NATO satellites, at least that's what they say, is right there. And this is how NATO can control and see what is going on in Russia. So if I am Putin, apart from creating this whole crazy anarchy and chaos, in terms of the invasion and then, this financial crisis, I would somehow get my ass into that Sulvaki gap and cut that cable. That's what I will do. And you know what happened with Belarus? Belarus is kind of sort of not autonomous anymore. So the borders are pushing, there. So that's what I will do. And if I am there, I'm sieging the whole European Union. So if I were Putin, that's what I would do. So we will see.
Yeah. Putin doesn't seem to be too clever about what he's doing, which it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Which is why some conspiracy theorists wonder: are all sides collabing to distract from whatever's really going on? By let's just unleash terror in Ukraine and divert all media attention there, so that nobody pays attention to whatever else is really going on.
That's what some of the Russians, like myself, happen to believe. And it's just so sad that Ukrainian people are paying for this. And those people in Donetsk and Lugansk, those Russian people that were killed, during these years, I don't know. It still seems to me so weird. Why wait for 8 years? Why now? So 8 years they were like looking how those people were dying, allegedly killed by Nazis, and now 8 years.
Well, why wait for 8 years? Because he had to wait for a weak point from the world leader, which is the US, and that weak point is now in the hands of Biden.
That's very true, which actually tells me that Putin isn't, a crazy man with a red button. He might be a good strategist. The future will.
And that's basically why Trump called him a genius, not because he agreed with Putin, but because he's like, well, yeah, Putin saw a prime moment, and Trump went on to say this never would have happened under me. But yeah, Putin regime just today was, according to Fox News. Fox News says the Kremlin says it will view Biden's insults of Putin as, quote, being driven by forgetfulness and fatigue.
Well, we
they don't take Biden serious.
And we know why. I mean, well, I was reading one of his speeches and he called Ukrainians Iranians. I was reading the transcript and he was talking about Ukraine and like Iranians. I'm like, wow.
Classic. Yeah, that's how it is. Every time.
That's how it is. So sometimes, me and my Russian friends, we play this game. Whose president is more evil? And Biden is mine now because I live in the United States, right? And Putin is theirs because they, live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we find it, about it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Americans are turning on their own president too. I think most Americans never wanted Biden. So,
well, he got elected. Apparently, he got elected, and
allegedly.
Like,
allegedly, Biden was
same like Putin. They are all elected allegedly. all elected allegedly.
Okay, well, we've flown past an hour already. I see one super chat. My system doesn't show all the super chats. Maybe this is the only one. Thank you for the super chat, Sean Smith. Is this the Sean Smith that I am friends with? I don't know, but thank you.
Wait, about this one I can quickly answer. My family owns a bakery.
Oh, the question of what do we think about the coming food crisis?
Oh yeah, the coming food crisis isn't going to be a joke. First of all, what is going on? 40% of world wheat is coming from Russia and Ukraine. Now, 10% of the world calories comes from wheat-based products, and most of them are those very, undeveloped poor countries like Africa, let's say. So the shortage of wheat could seriously trigger famine. And we, my family, we have a bakery. So the wheat is going up to the limit, every day. And wheat is somehow regulated commodity, so it can only go up 75 cents every day. And every day it's at the limit, at the limit, at the limit.
Oh, wow.
Let's say the normal historic price for a bushel of wheat is $16 to $17, and now it's like what, $32 or $33. So the consumer prices here for a bread, for your hamburger buns, for everything, expect plus 30 to 40% pretty soon. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
I'm hearing that from a lot of people. My financial advisor told me that last week. He's like, the situation with wheat right now is really bad. Like America is gearing up for a bad food situation.
It is, yeah, and we are, a good example. And we were able to buy, I don't know, 6 million tons of wheat for like $33 versus our normal price, which was about 16 or 17. And that is only going to provide our needs for like half a year. And what's next? No one knows. So
Wow.
it is going to be pretty bad.
So that leads me to prepare with Ivory, guys. I have to do a plug now for my emergency food supply.
Prepare.
I always link my emergency food supply down below in my description of every video. So go order my emergency food supply, $50 to $150 off, depending on what you order there. Get stuck,
Right.
guys. Okay, thanks so much. Cheers. Thanks for your Russian insight. I appreciate it. Oh, there's one more. Someone squeezed in a last minute super chat. Okay. Quote, I'm seeing a report that the Trudeau government in Canada has depleted its stocks of weapons in its rush to assist Ukraine. Oh yeah, I mean, Ukrainian president Trudeau was one of the first people he got with. He was like, Trudeau has our back. So I believe it. So there you go, truckers. Canada got rid of its weapons, so you're good to go protest again. They can't take you down now. Thank you so much, Reggie, for the super chat. I appreciate that. Okay, and that does it. We're over the time. I really appreciate it, Elena, and let's get together soon and hike a mountain.
Please.
Okay. All right. I'll see you later. Bye.